Welcome into Bama Central 3 and Out after another crazy weekend of college football and SEC football. It was actually, I say crazy, but pretty calm for Alabama. The rest of the top 5 and top 10 had some scares, but Alabama handled business at home against Vanderbilt, which kind of leads into what we're going to talk about next. You know, the AP and coaches poll came out on Sunday. Alabama stayed at number 2 in both polls, but kind of gained some ground in the coaches poll after Georgia had a closer than expected contest with Kent State. Not that the game was ever in doubt, but gave it more points than they were probably expecting. Alabama handled business against Vanderbilt. So, guys, just what are kind of your overall reactions to the two polls, and who do you think deserves to be number 1 4 games into the season, Alabama or Georgia?
Yeah, I think looking at it, I was talking with some people, on Saturday night about who, we would rank who should be ranked number 1 or number 2. And honestly, I would have given it to Alabama just because this past weekend I liked what I saw from Alabama, as I'm sure a lot of fans and viewers of college football did. They looked really good. The defense continues to be stifling, having only given up 2 offensive touchdowns this year. Bryce Young was back to true Heisman form again with his 4 touchdowns and 385 passing yards. This overall, he found 12 receivers, so it was a really well-rounded look from Alabama. Meanwhile, Georgia in their own stadium, they struggled to put away Kent State. That game was a lot closer than the score made it look. I know the final scoreboard read 39-22, but this is a Georgia team that definitely shows some flaws. We saw Alabama have 26 first place votes this week. They were just narrowly out of the AFC coaches poll, only trailing by 5 points total. But that being said, the AP, there really wasn't anything built up at all. I think Alabama picked up 1 for additional first place vote, but other than that, there was no shift. So I think Alabama should have been number 1, but they have a big game against Arkansas this week, and if they're able to impress once again, maybe we'll see that swap next weekend.
Definitely, Joe. I was really impressed with how Alabama, really stifled Vanderbilt. They had a lot of players with Will Sheppard and Ray Davis that were kind of leading the SEC in their respective positions. So to really stifle that offense is impressive. They'll get another chance to do that against Arkansas, who, like Vanderbilt, but on the defensive side, have a lot of top tier SEC players with Drew Sanders and a lot of those guys. There's a lot to expect. With Georgia, I agree with you. To the fact that 22 points was allowed by Kent State, that's something to really be alarmed about. I will keep that in mind going forward to watch the Georgia Bulldogs. But overall, I think Alabama, deserves to be the number 1 team. I think they'll prove that again when they go against Arkansas this Saturday.
Yeah, I think that at this point in the season, it's kind of interesting because it doesn't necessarily matter, and we'll see how things play out. I think what these past couple weeks have showed us is that both teams, or neither team, is invincible. Both teams have flaws, and I think there's a good chance that both teams could lose during the regular season. But I still think there's an even better chance the 2 teams will match up in Atlanta at the end of the season in the SEC title, where things will really get squared away for good, or not for good, like we saw last season when they then played again a couple weeks later in the national championship. But that'll about do it for today's Bama Central 3 and Out. For Joe Blackwell and Mason Smith, I'm Katie Wyndham. Thank you so much for watching.